I'd like to gavel in our regularly scheduled meeting for December 17, 2012. If you'd all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Here.
Alderwoman Manister.
Here.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderman Toohey.
Here.
Alderman Kramer. Present. Alderman Robertson.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
Alderman Harper.
Here.
Thank you. Before we go any further into the meeting this evening, in light of the tragic events in Connecticut this past Friday, I would ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. I would greatly appreciate you keeping those families in your prayers. Approval of the agenda for the regular Board of Alderman meeting, December 17th. Any changes? Alderwoman Saunders?
I was just wondering, we haven't had a chance to discuss the noise code, and I know we went ahead and put it on the agenda because the public hearing had already been posted, but I was wondering if we should hold that over until the next meeting when the noise, still have the public hearing, but then hold the bill over till we discuss it at the Public Works meeting?
Well, could we do that? We'll go ahead with the public hearing, then do that when we read the bills. Is that right? We'll leave it on the agenda, and then you could talk about it at that point. That's fine.
Okay.
Alderman Leahy, did you have any changes?
Motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
No.
Second.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Here. Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Toohey.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Thank you. Consideration approval of the minutes from the December 3rd, 2012 meeting. Any changes?
Move for adoption,
Motion.
Your Honor.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Motion is made by Alderman Robertson, second by Alderman Leahy to accept the minutes as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, public hearing. We have a petition for an amendment to Chapter 25 of the Articles of, Chapter 25, Article 6, Division 6 of our Planning and Zoning Code. Ellen, I'm sorry. You can stay there.
At its August 8th meeting, the Public Works Committee unanimously approved forwarding a text amendment, amending the city's noise regulations to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The Planning and Zoning Commission completed its deliberation on the text amendment and is recommending approval unanimously. The text amendment, or the purpose of it, is to amend the city's regulations to ensure they apply to all properties, residential, commercial, and industrial, and have the same limits for all properties and update the sound criteria so they conform to current industry standards for measuring sound levels. The draft changes are included in your memo, and I could answer some questions if there are any as well. Thanks.
Okay. Why don't we open up to the public first, and if anybody has any questions or comments with respect to the amendment to the sound code, please come forward and give us your name and address.
I know, surprise, I'm here, right?
I was hoping you would say something.
My name's Denise Ebbing. I live on Porter. I just have a couple of questions because it sounds like this is an improvement to what our current code is. I'm just wanting to confirm that that's the case. And if somebody can confirm that, it sounds like at least there's a differential that at nighttime the noise has to be lower than it is during the daytime, if someone can confirm that. The only concern I have is that the stipulation that, can you hear me? The stipulation that a resident might, if somebody's a complainant, a resident is complaining about something that might be commercial property, such as our situation for the last couple of years, that we have to if it's not deemed to be an issue by someone else, that we have to put money up for escrow, and that could be a problem for some people if they can't afford to do that. So that's my one concern, is that, there be some considerations. Historically, this issue that I've continued to bring to the board's attention has already been in the works, and I think there's still it's still an open issue, but I would suggest that maybe there be some relief for somebody that may not be able to afford that money up front. So,
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments? Okay. For the record, we actually opened the public hearing at 7:05. It is 7:08. I will close the public hearing, but we will address. Ellen, can you maybe give us a quick synopsis? Or?
Sure. In response to Ms. Hebbing's first question, that I can confirm that this will be easier to enforce. It does differentiate between nighttime and daytime noise levels, and that was something that was discussed at one of the Public Works Committee meetings and was incorporated into the text amendment that P&Z worked on. With regard to requiring an escrow deposit, that was something that was required that is required in our existing code. What was changed is that the amount of the escrow deposit, our current code language says $200, and that was changed to say an amount sufficient to defray the costs. And all of that is refunded to the complainant if the complaint is determined to be valid by the study.
Okay.
Mayor Kelly, we have Emile Demont, who is the engineer consultant that the city retained to assist us during this process. So if there are any questions, he can also answer them.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions at this time? Or
Not questions for him, technical,
Okay.
just, concern too about the deposit amount. Should I wait till the bill, or how should we handle that?
we could wait till the bill if we're going to open up the discussion with the board on that, if that's all right. But any
Let me
other
see if I have
general
any.
questions?
Technical.
Also, Mr. Demont has a prior commitment, so if there aren't any technical questions, he will probably have to take his leave.
Okay. Does anybody?
Hold on 1 second, let me look through my.
I don't.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to bids, and there are none this evening. Next item 7, hearing of any matters of public interest upon request of any persons present. If anybody would like to address the Board of Alderman, please come forward and give us your name and address. Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 7. Item 8. Alderwoman
I
Saunders.
had a little bit of a technical question, but
Oh,
I
that's
think
fine.
Ellen will be able to handle it. I'm sorry, I had my order when the bills came up, so I was trying to read through my notes.
That's fine. I'm sorry.
It was just on, let's see, of the bill, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Page 5, item number 5 begins on page 4 at the bottom. The ambient noise level exceeds the level of the noise emitted from the stationary noise source for one or more periods of time during the period of measurement. Then for any such period of time, the level of the noise emitted from the stationary noise source shall be deemed to be lower than the level which is permitted for 60 minutes during the period of measurement. That one clause, I'm not even certain if I've read that correctly, but in a 60-minute period, if the ambient noise is greater than the sounding noise, then that's not a violation of the code?
And that's in our list of exceptions in, no, it's just under the 25-453
You know what I'm
noise
s-
section.
I guess what I'm going to ask is, like, if it's a noise, let's say like a gong, like the church bells you'd only hear once an hour, but what if there's a repetitive noise, like a bang, and then a bang, and then a bang, but it, like let's say it bangs 5 times an hour, but the ambient noise increases, does that fall under there? I just didn't understand, and I could be reading it wrong.
Well, if Mr. Demott could maybe answer that for us.
question.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Mr. DeMond, if
He's
you
still
could.
here.
Yeah.
Well, in general,
the code, this is a code that's similar to many other municipalities, including St. Louis County. And the table that follows this paragraph, or actually beyond 6, I guess it is, talks about how that's computed. And so if you're talking about short duration noises, first of all, they cannot be above 71 at all. So even if it happens for a second, it can't be above 71 or it's a violation of the code.
Okay.
That's the last section in that chart for the daytime hours. And so then if it's, let's say it's in the 68 to 70 range, then it can only be there for 2 minutes of the hour. Otherwise, it's a violation of the code. So it's a matter of sound level and duration in that case. So for a continuous noise that doesn't change, the daytime limit is 55. If you have shorter duration noises, they can exist as long as they are within these ranges. Something in the range of 68 to 70 can only be there for 2 minutes, or it's a violation of the code. So as the sound level goes up, the time goes down. So in fact, the number is 3 dB. Every time the sound level goes up by 3 dB, the time is cut in half. And it keeps doing that. Every 3 dB, it cuts it in half again. And the last one that's there is 71. It cannot be above 71 at any time. So if it happens for just a second, it would be a violation of the code.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think, is that, yeah.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, like, for instance, if you have, though, a noise at the 5960, it can be in duration for 15 minutes during the day at that level?
15 minutes during the hour, yes.
During the hour. And so you can have, in that hour, 3 of those durations.
So if it happened in the first 5 minutes, and then at 20 minutes, and then at 35 minutes during that hour, that would add up to be a violation? Or does it have to be?
Well, if the duration of the noise is very, very short, then it falls, it could be legal, because you're allowed, in the 59 to 61 range, you're allowed 15 minutes before you violate the code.
But does it have to be 15 continuous minutes, I guess is the question?
No, 15 minutes total
Within
during
the
the
hour,
hour.
right.
So the accumulative time at that level within the hour has to be 15 minutes
Right.
or less.
I mean, it's hard for me to relate because I don't know what a really loud, you know what I mean? I don't know whether 59, 61, I mean, would that be annoying? But this is standard. This is St. Louis County has this number 5 in their
Yes, and
code.
this is common to many municipalities, not just St. Louis County. It's kind of the standard for many cities and counties in the United States, and it's based on the dBA number, which is easier to measure, and you can actually measure that with a relatively low-cost sound level meter. They can measure in dBA, where your other code, your previous code, was defined based on octave bands, and that level, that sophistication, let me say, of the sound level meter increases the price about almost 10 to 1. So it gets very expensive, and it's much more complex, and unnecessarily so. A dBA type measurement is quite adequate. It gives you the same control as you had before. Your code essentially was 56 in the past, and so now we're talking 55 during the day, which is essentially the same and much easier to measure. But when we get into these situations where we have short duration, high sound levels, it really takes a sound level meter that can log the data and take it every second, which is what we provide when we're taking a set of data. A survey sound level meter would only tell you that we might have a problem here. If you had one of your staff go out and measure, you could say, well, we probably ought to have somebody come in here and measure, some expert, not necessarily McClure, but somebody who knows how to measure sound and has the equipment to do so. But at least you could sample it and determine whether it was worthwhile having an expert to come in and help you with that.
I still have one follow-up. And this may be more of a legal question, the wording of it. That first sentence, if the ambient noise level exceeds the level of the noise emitted from the stationary noise source for one or more periods of time during the period of measurement, then it goes on to say that the noise is considered lower than the level permitted. So it seems to me that if you have one, even though you might have a violation, if you have a period where the ambient noise level is greater than the sound, the troubling sound, that hour is okay. Am I reading that wrong, Frank? I can't.
I can see how you'd come to that conclusion, but I think, I need to take a little closer look at this. I think what they're referring to is the actual, I'm sorry. I think when they're referring to any such period of time level, they're referring back to those intermittent times of 2, 8, 15 minutes. And it would also require that the ambient noise level exceed that for the entire duration, if I read this.
I think what this is talking about is a situation where you have ambient noise due to other sources present. In the case when we measured data and provided it for the city of Brentwood, we had some traffic noise present from 7 in the morning till about 2 in the afternoon that was on Hanley and also Manchester. And that noise has nothing to do with any particular property. It has to do with traffic noise. And that's what this is talking about. In those cases where traffic noise, for instance, or let's say an aircraft flyover noise, those things have nothing to do with controlling the noise at the property boundary. And so in those cases, it would be exempted during that hour. You can't violate, no particular property owner would be in violation of a code when the noise is above the code because of other reasons. Traffic noise being one of those things. Aircraft flyover is a possibility, although we don't have as many of those now.
Still get them.
Well, when the big planes come over Brentwood, they're up at a higher altitude, so it generally doesn't present a problem, and we don't have fighter aircraft out of McDonnell now. So anyway, I think that's what this is talking about.
I see what he's saying now, that it does say your ambient noise. Then you're saying the stationary noise combined with the ambient, if that combination makes it greater, it won't be judged as a
No, it's just
violation?
it's just if the other noise is louder than, if the air
stationary
conditioner is
noise.
making noise, but the car is louder, the
negates.
air conditioner isn't making the violation.
negated.
It's the automobile.
Okay.
Right.
So
But can you differentiate between?
There are indications in the data, yes, that you can determine whether it's a stationary source or a transient source. And in the case of traffic noise, you're dealing with transient sources that rise and fall with time. And stationary sources typically don't do that. And they maintain a stationary level, a constant level versus time. And when you've got traffic noise, it rises and falls. And you can see that in the data.
Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to be a stickler. I've read legal documents, but you have to get them worded correctly. And if you can separate the ambient noise from the stationary sound, I don't see why that needs to be in there.
well, because if something was louder than the air conditioner, then it's not in violation because they're hearing something else besides the air conditioner, so it's not in a violation.
Right.
The ambient noise negates the stationary noise.
Right.
If it's louder.
Well, if the ambient noise is higher than the stationary noise, we can't tell where the stationary noise is exactly. We might be able to do that in certain frequency bands, but you can't tell in terms of the total sound power being emitted from this stationary source when there's something else present that's higher than that stationary source, traffic noise or something else.
I guess the logic is, and again, I'm just using the air conditioner as an example. You can't say that air conditioner is bothering me. I can't hear it because of the cars, but that air conditioner is still bothering me because it's loud. I mean, that's kind of the logic. So it kind of drowns out the other right? I
Right.
assume that's the logic, man. So, could you, oh, I'm sorry.
I just have one question. Someone had mentioned church bells. We have at least 2 churches that have bells. Is there an average, range that a church bell would send off?
Oh, that would be hard to say. In fact, it would even be affected by atmospheric conditions, and obviously how far away the church is and how strong the bell is. So it would be difficult to determine that. But in general, something that's such a narrow element in time, like a bell ringing, would not be a violation of the code.
Okay. I
You'd
just
have
wanted
a
to make
hard
sure
time,
that-
even if you summed up the time, you'd be a very low number of seconds, and we're talking about minutes here in the chart. It's very unlikely that a bell would violate the code.
Could you give us your full name and the company you work for the record?
Emile DeMott, and I'm an acoustic specialist with McClure Engineering here in St. Louis.
Thank you. Okay. Alderman Kramer?
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to address Alderwoman Saunders' question there a few minutes ago. And I think that, well, first, the topic of the reference sound that we're looking at, just as an illustrative point, the FHA, that is the governmental entity that determines if a sound wall is to be awarded for a property owner, for example. The threshold is 66 decibels. So, and that is an A weighting, if I remember correctly, which is what they're using in this code as well. As we found out as Kevin and myself and Bola found out over in Brentwood Forest, nearest the highway, a lot of the residents that don't have sound walls, that's pretty much what you're going to hear is the 66 to 70, 75 decibel area, and it's a constant ambient noise. So anything under 66, at least as far as the government is concerned, is deemed to be livable or not abatable. So in this particular circumstance, it would appear as though some of the criteria that we have is very, very protective of our residents. And I'm glad to see that it's A weighting versus C weighting for this particular purpose. But Bola and Frank, I have a question for you. If the sound is emitted from outside the city boundary and comes into the city boundary, we have no recourse then?
I don't think we can enforce our ordinance against property owners not within the city.
Okay.
But I think, again, there are a lot of municipalities that if it was in violation of the other municipalities' sound code, we could certainly approach them to see if there was, that they would enforce their ordinance.
We could bring it to their attention.
And this one, and again, my understanding is that our new ordinance, the ones being proposed, is more in line with what the other residents use, because this is in line with St. Louis County.
Did we compare to other, do we know, I know we were trying to get in line with St. Louis County 1 to make it easier, 2 to measure. So do you know, Ellen, is this, did we look at other areas, noise regulations?
Other cities.
Cities?
We use the St. Louis County as a standard, but several other communities also use the same ordinance as St. Louis County.
Okay, and this verbatim is from St. Louis County, is number 5.
I believe
is what
so,
I'm asking.
but I need to confirm with Mr. DeMott since he drafted the text amendment.
Okay.
As I said,
You have to,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
This code that St. Louis County has, we're not pointing at them as being the ones who came up with it necessarily, but they just happen to be one of many bodies that use the same code. This code is standard across the United States for most municipalities. They use a very similar code to what we're talking about here. And the sound levels, we're talking about 55 in the day and 50 at night, are standard for all these situations. So there are a few other small communities in St. Louis, in the St. Louis area, that use the code you are vacating. Somebody was around 20 or 30 years ago, like Johnny Appleseed, and got a lot of them off using that code. And we see that from time to time, but that code is very antiquated, and this one is much easier to legislate and to enforce. And so you're not on virgin territory here. This is common ground for many cities in the United States.
Okay.
The only question, excuse me, Mr.,
Sure.
that I was asking was, if number 5, that is the language used in the St. Louis County Code, since I'm having difficulty understanding it with my brain.
Yeah.
This is very technical, and assuming that's...
Frankly, I don't recall this particular paragraph, so I'm a little bit at sea to say, yes, it is in the code, in the St. Louis County Code, but we basically were picking up their code line by line, and so I'm sure that that's the case. I think it's unlikely that there's been a mistake here, but all this is saying is that when there's extraneous noises that are not controlled by the code present, then anybody who's being looked at, a stationary source, is not in violation necessarily when the sound level is above the level of their stationary source.
Okay.
So it's just saying that in those particular cases, as we had with the noise on Hanley from 7 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, the sound level that we measured was above your code. But it didn't mean that anybody around that area was in violation of the code. The traffic was doing it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to number 8, introduction, reading, and passage of bills and resolutions. If I could have a motion for the first and second readings of bill number 5719, 5720, and 5721, please.
So moved, Your Honor.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Motion is made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderman Robertson for the first and second readings only. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. First reading of bill number 5719, please.
First reading bill number 5719 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into and execute a consultant service agreement with Lisa Korkenmeyer of LK Real Estate Consulting Services, Inc., and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, and thanks for the pronunciation guide there, Frank. Bill 5719 is for an ordinance authorizing the city administrator of the City of Brentwood to enter into and execute a professional services consultation agreement with Lisa Korkenmeyer of LK Real Estate Consulting Services, Incorporated, and the City of Brentwood. The consultant planner will assist the city with professional city planning services that in connection with the city development projects during the absence of Ellen Rotkajab, Director of Planning and Development. Her start date is projected December 18th, 2012.
Okay, any questions? Alderman Sanders?
Bola, could you clarify for for everyone the process, how we came to this particular person, just so that the audience knows as well, too?
We received suggestions of consultants that the city could consider for the time period that Ellen would be absent. We looked at their resume, we asked for references, and we looked at cost, and we felt that Lisa had sufficient experience in similar communities, the temperament that fits City of Brentwood, and we felt that we would work really well with her, so we made the selection to bring her on board and present her agreement to you tonight.
Alderman Sanders.
Thank you, Bola. The reason I asked that is the agenda was out for Public Works when I had my Ward 1 meeting, so individuals had asked, and so I thought that would be a good clarification. I know you provided it to the alderman,
Right.
and she was at considerably less than some of the other consultants that were recommended.
And she is here tonight. Lisa?
Oh, great. Hi, how are you?
Is there any other questions you might have?
I don't think so, but you can introduce yourself. How's that?
Yes.
So.
Well, thank you very much for your consideration to enter into this agreement. But yes, Ellen and I, we've been acquaintances for probably about the past, 8 or 10 years or so through American Planning Association activities here with the St. Louis organization. And again, thank you for your consideration. I look forward to helping the City of Brentwood with your planning and zoning duties in Ellen's absence. So I have done this for some other communities. It's kind of a little bit of a niche to do this on a temporary basis, but it's worked out real well in the other communities that I've served. So again, thank you, and I hope this all works out then. So.
Great. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Alderman Kramer.
And just would be helpful to point out that Lisa is going to be starting enough ahead of time to get up to speed with you on several of the ongoing projects.
Yes, that's correct. There'll be a transition period where she and I will work together to make a seamless transition. So.
And if possible, if there was some sort of a need, she could still call you by phone and check in on something.
Alderwoman Saunders.
And this has nothing to do with you, Lisa, but I reviewed the contract, and I know that we, in the background that we were given on how this was, we arrived at this contract, we were estimating that it would be approximately 20 hours per week. Can we just, and maybe this isn't necessary, but I thought maybe put a note in there that if she was going to exceed the 20 hours, that it was approved by you. Not that I'm sure you'll be working together, but let's say in the event that somebody was
I think there
spending.
is provision for her to submit a report of what she works on, so.
Okay, just if somebody, you know what I mean, was spending excessive time on one project. I'm not saying this will happen with Lisa.
No, we've done this on other agreements in the past, and that is something that we monitor with the consultant. So I don't believe it needs to be specifically stated in the agreement.
Okay.
But the fact that we're both in here tonight hearing you say that is a reminder.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5719 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the city administrator to enter into and execute a consulting services agreement with Lisa Korkenmeyer of LK Real Estate Consulting Services, Inc., and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Motion is made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderman Kramer. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Bill number 5719 is now ordinance number 4394.
Thank you. First reading of Bill number 5720, please.
First reading, Bill Number 5720 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute an agreement between the City of Brentwood, Missouri and George Butler Associates, Inc. for construction, engineering, inspection services, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Synopsis, please.
Your Honor, Bill 5720 is one that would provide for an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the City of Brentwood to enter into an executive agreement between the City of Brentwood and George Butler Associates, Incorporated, for the final phase of the construction, engineering, inspection services for the Rose Avenue Improvement Project. The city was awarded the Surface Transportation Program, STP, grant funds to reimburse a portion of the project cost of constructing the new American with Disabilities Act sidewalks, curb ramps, and pedestrian lighting on Rose Avenue from Brentwood Boulevard into the Brentwood Promenade. This is a time-sensitive item requiring the Board of Aldermen's action before the end of the year to ensure that we do not run into trouble with funding with East-West Gateway.
Okay. Any questions? Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5720 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute an agreement between the City of Brentwood, Missouri and George Butler Associates, Inc. for construction, engineering, inspection services, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call. Motion.
No, Your Honor, for adoption.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion is made by Alderman Robertson, second by Alderman Leahy. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Bill number 5720 is now ordinance number 4395.
Thank you. First reading of Bill number 5721.
First reading, Bill Number 5721 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the revised code of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending the noise regulations found in Division 6 Environmental Performance Standards, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, providing for the current maintenance of this code, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with proceeding with this bill tonight, or?
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Alderman Saunders.
Yes, since we had the technical person here, I'm fine with proceeding.
Okay.
I still have a couple questions, but not
Okay, go ahead.
technical, not technical.
Okay.
Okay, and this.
I'm sorry. Can we do the
okay.
synopsis first?
I'm sorry.
And then I'm sorry.
Yes, Your Honor. The subject of tonight's public hearing, Bill 5721, is for an ordinance authorizing and amending Chapter 25 of the revised code of the City of Brentwood by amending the Brentwood noise regulations found in Division 6, Environmental Performance Standards. The purpose of amending the city's current regulations is to ensure that they apply to all properties, residential, commercial, and industrial, and that they have the same limits for all properties and update the sound criteria so they conform to current industry standards for measuring sound levels. The Brentwood Planning and Zoning Commission worked on the draft text amendment forwarded by the Public Works Committee at its October 10th, October 30th, and November 14th meetings, and is recommending its approval.
Thank you. You can't notice this, but Tom's got long legs, and when I forget to do the synopsis, he kicks me underneath the table.
That's not true.
Alderman Saunders.
Okay. The first one, let's see. We did the publication in the St. Louis County paper. Is that the best place? I mean, for this type of.
It costs more to put it in the Post-Dispatch.
Yeah,
And that's
I
where
would
we
say
typically.
it's a common source for municipalities to do it that way.
Legal.
It covers the legal requirement.
That's true.
I think the Post-Dispatch would be 5, 6, 7, a lot more.
If I might
just
add,
yeah.
in my experience, the St. Louis County may very well have, strictly for legal publication purposes, the largest number of advertisers. They handle the publications for, most of the publications for foreclosures and any number of things.
I'm familiar with the paper just because I worked for attorneys and they got it every day, so I knew what it was. I just.
But that's where the organizations go and look for these postings now because they know that's where they are. So not only is it, and that's how I was going to finish, it is cheaper, but most companies that are looking for municipal bids go there and look for those postings there because that's the most common use in St. Louis County.
I can see for bids, but I guess when notifying the public, though, of a public hearing, I think you're trying to attract the residents at that, and I was just wondering.
That's where you have the postings.
No, well, both, right? Okay.
We also mail, not for text amendments because we'd have to mail to the entire city, but for anything having to do with the petition site, we mail notices to residents and property owners within 300 feet of the property as well. So
Okay.
that helps a little bit.
We also
Okay.
put this
I
on
guess
the
if we put-
website.
On the website?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank
And
you.
posted.
And then,
We do.
whereas we have all of these A, B, C, D, E, I think is this like one of the first text, like big amendments to the code? Or I don't remember reading all of that before, but I notice it says, too, will comply with the city's comprehensive plan and that. Does it always have to comply with the comprehensive plan when you're making a change to the zoning code?
Yeah, there are specific standards in the zoning code that must be met when you're doing a text amendment or rezoning or a conditional use permit. So those are included in the ordinance as
Okay.
sort of findings of fact.
Okay. And then this is probably in the new code or manual, and I just haven't memorized it yet, but the zoning administrator, how is that defined?
It's defined in the zoning code as being the person who's responsible for administering the zoning code and who is also defined as being the director of planning and development or that person's designee.
So for us, is that person you?
So it'd be me, right, it'd be me or whoever I would designate if needed.
Okay,
In my
but
department.
it falls to you first?
Yes.
And then if not you, then it would maybe go to the chair of planning and zoning, is that?
No, that would go to staff.
It'd be a
Okay,
staff
go to
person.
staff, it's a
in
staff
the
person.
department.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And then the other question that I had was too about the escrow deposit, the full amount. I thought that was, for someone that really feels like this is a problem, I can't foresee this happening because if it really is a problem, I think that, the administrator would be able to, take care of it. But if it does, that's a steep amount for them to have to come up with the entire amount. And I know like with the temporary occupancy permits for the commercial, we only ask them to come up for 25% of the cost of finishing, what items they had to finish. I was wondering if maybe, I know it was $200 before, but, maybe the deposit's like $500 or something that somebody wouldn't want to lose, but yet a little bit more reasonable for residents to afford if they really felt they had to take
Does it
that.
give you the discretion to do that, doesn't it?
Yes, it says, actually, we took away
It
the
says
specific
sufficient.
amount
Amount.
and said in an amount sufficient.
Right.
So.
But it says sufficient to defray the cost of employing. I mean, that means.
Right, but the 200 wasn't enough either, and I think the point is, some studies may end up being a $4,000 study, or we're going to estimate it's going to be that, opposed to being a $2,000 study, and so it gives the staff, the zoning administrator, the ability to make sure that it's going to at least cover a portion of that. I think the reason that you have that in there is unfortunately, you don't want to have a situation where, you have 5 different, residents coming up and saying they're, something's bothering them and we have to do a sound study. And again, if it comes back as a violation, they're reimbursed the full amount anyway. So it's just kind of to kind of balance that out so you don't get frivolous complaints.
I agree.
Right. So
I'm in agreement with that, that thought, and I knew that's why that was in there, but I was thinking like even maybe 25%, or if we said 30% of what we thought.
We always have the option to bring this back to the board, and if the board chooses to ask the city to absorb that cost, that's a decision that the board could make as well. But this is just as, a policy, so to
It's the
speak.
policy, though. Do you know what I mean? That
well,
it
but
doesn't have to
again,
come to
you're still
us.
giving the discretion up to the zoning administrator to determine what that appropriate amount is.
And it's not required that it says that the zoning administrator may as a condition.
Right.
But having this this updated ordinance that has, that allows staff the ability to gauge with a sound meter, we would be doing that initially to determine whether or not we think there's a violation. And then if that sound meter study that we can do by ourselves in-house shows that there is an indication that there isn't a problem, then we would move on to hiring a professional to do the more fine-tuned analysis. So that will help also, I think, in terms of getting us to a certain point without having to require any sort of deposit. And
Okay, and then I had one other question, and that was, can the resident conduct the study independently using a reputable sound study person and then be reimbursed if they're afraid? That seems to have been an issue, that the noise that's bothering them, if, the particular resident or business is contacted, maybe they'll temporarily stop the noise when the study's conducted and then it'll resume. So if like let's say a resident does it independently, can they be reimbursed for the study if it is above the?
I wouldn't think so. Anyone would have they could do that on their own if they wished, but we would have to do the enforcement. It would have to be something that we were enforcing as one of our own ordinances. That would be in my opinion, that we wouldn't reimburse people to do their own studies. So.
Okay. Alderman Lay.
Ellen, currently the only problem that the city is facing on noise is that at Porter.
Yes, that's my understanding.
We have nobody else outside complaining that there are other places that we should be paying attention to.
Well, we have a complaint about maybe a commercial property here and there that has a number of violations of, but nothing that's gone to the point of actually enforcing our noise ordinance. We occasionally get complaints about noise here and there, but it's usually just handled as a nuisance issue.
This is the only one.
This is the only one. Yeah.
That I would like to be very clear in the minutes, since we're bringing this forward and cleaning up our code to change. At least we establish at which point we're switching, and that current businesses seem to be in conformance with what we're doing, and that we're not creating a new obstacle for everybody.
Right. There's no outstanding complaints, is what.
That's correct. Okay,
Everyone.
yes, that's correct.
Alderman
you.
Harper.
I just want to be clear on the definitions. Daytime hours are 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Oh, well,
That's a long day.
Pacific Standard Time.
Again, is that a
common
standard?
to 10 p.m. for daytime hours?
I agree with Alderman Harper's. I had that question and I just missed it on here. I would agree with that too. I thought that was.
That was again taken from the model ordinance, or the ordinance that we use St. Louis County. In the planning and zoning and their review, they did talk about hours for some of the exceptions, but this was not something that they questioned. They were supportive of this time frame, but
I just want to make sure I was reading it right.
that's correct. That's a standard.
Well,
We've had one reading.
Did Alderman Saunders?
oh, okay. Well, I agree. I think that's too late. 10 o'clock is too late. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Well, again, I would suggest that we stay in compliance with or try to stay in line with the St. Louis County's ordinance. And again, if it becomes an issue, it could always be changed down the line. But this has not been an issue, except for the one ongoing concern. And I'm not saying taking that lightly, but it really doesn't come about that often. I think you do have a lot of businesses that you have retailers and other businesses that do have, 2 shifts, and so they may be operating until 10 o'clock at night. Those kinds of things, and I think that's probably why that is. And we also have a bit large commercial area. So, again, that would be my suggestion. But so.
And then also on the last page, under exceptions, number 9, the lawn care maintenance equipment. We've already had, I think I had forwarded those, a couple complaints about that. Is there any way at least to, I see till sunset, but the commercial mowers on like Mount Calvary's lot, the complaint was someone going out there at 7 and 8 o'clock at night and you're trying to have a drink on your back porch. I'm just telling you, this was resident complaint that I received.
We resolved that with Mount Calvary back then, and we'd be willing to do that if those complaints resurface in other parts of the
Yeah,
city.
I just didn't know if we should specify commercial lawn mowing till like 7 o'clock p.m.
I would imagine it's inclusive whether you're in a residential area or commercial area.
Well, and again, I mean, in that instance, if you want to be technical, it wasn't a commercial lawnmower service doing it. It was Mount Calvary cutting their grass. I mean, so it was kind of, right. It was their property, and they were cutting the grass. But when we told them about it, they addressed the concern and stopped doing it that late in the evening. So, and I think most businesses in a situation like that would be, they don't want to make people upset and those kinds of things. And I think a lot of times you can resolve these issues just by bringing the parties together and discussing them. So.
I was wondering, do we get many complaints about down the ballpark down there? People live across. Do they get the games over early enough? Are there noises that?
I'm not aware of any complaints we've
I
received.
didn't either. I just was wondering.
Yeah.
Only about the officiating.
That's true.
Not enough whistles. No. Second reading, please.
Well, Ellen, did you find that one section is in St. Louis County Codes?
Yes, I have a copy of the draft that Emil put together for us, and it's the same wording, except we deleted part of one sentence at the very end, which I
Okay.
can show you. But other than that, the paragraph is word for word from the county's ordinance.
Okay.
Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5721 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending the noise regulations found in Division 6 Environmental Performance Standards, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, providing for the current maintenance of this code, and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Thank you. Any other
I'll move to approve Bill 5721 in ordinance form, please.
And second?
Second.
We have first and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
No.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Bill number 5721 is now ordinance number 4396.
Thank you. Resolution 986, amendments to the 2012 budget.
87?
Did I say 80? I got 86.
It's 87.
Well,
The agenda is written
All right.
It's
incorrectly.
87.
All right,
It should be
87.
987.
Your Honor, resolution number 987 is a resolution amending the full year 2012 annual budget for the City of Brentwood's fiscal year, running from January 1st through December 31st, 2012. The Ways and Means Committee has reviewed the budget amendment presented by staff, which identifies exceptions, decreases, and increases in the revenue and expenditure line items requiring amending. Exhibit A provides reasons why there is an increase or decrease in the various line items. The Ways and Means Committee has reviewed again and recommends its approval by forwarding this to the Board of Aldermen.
Okay. Any questions? Alderwoman Saunders?
Sorry. I did ask Gina about this in the Ways and Means meeting, but that insurance line under municipal operating, you were thinking that it didn't get pulled out to the correct that it didn't get budgeted, that we had intended to budget, I guess, more. I'm not certain exactly what the explanation was. And when I went back and looked at the budget, you had also said that this wasn't the insurance for like health care, but when I look back at the budget and at this account, it is health care and workman's compensation.
The budget document for 2012 lists health insurance as being one of the items that make up that total, but it actually is workers' compensation and property liability, those kinds of insurance. So it's not employee benefit type insurance. And that continues to be the case for that was 2011. That continues to be the case for 2012. So what's in there in that line item is workers' comp, property liability insurance for the city.
Okay, so like we're increasing it to 368,000, but right now the year-to-date through November is 223,000. So we're 30,000 under budget. Is there a huge bill due in December?
Yes.
Okay, and what policy is that for?
It is the second half of our workers' comp, property and liability coverage.
Okay, okay. And then the police department, the $100,000 that we're adding to the contractual, we just missed that. Is that correct? Because we didn't. You'd think that you'd be able to move that from the municipal operating budget. You know what I mean? Like we would have budgeted the $100,000 up in municipal and move it to the police, since that's where we're recording the costs. But in the budget process, it totally just got missed. Is that correct?
Yes, because the miscellaneous contractual was reduced in municipal operating, but it was not moved to the police department.
We just didn't pick it up.
Right.
So, okay, and I understand, because that was the
intent
first
for it to
year
do
of
that,
breaking the budget apart, and I could easily see how that was done.
Right.
And then the insurance settlements, we receive settlements, and then we also have cost. Is the cost down below the deductible, and then we still got some settlement money from it too? Is that?
Right. We are responsible for the full amount of the repairs, but we only receive a certain amount from the insurance. We have certain deductibles, and they differ by whether it's a building claim or a property or vehicle claim, those kinds of things. The deductibles are different.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't get it earlier,
No,
but
that's okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Motion to approve Resolution 987.
And second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a first and second to approve Resolution 987. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, accounts against the city. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. As set forth in the code, I have reviewed the warrant list for this evening and recommending its approval in the amount of $155,184.02.
Your Honor,
Alderman Lay.
I'd like to call the board's attention to the bottom of page 1 on the Joe Makins Ford, $23,760. This includes the car that we had talked about earlier for the city administrator. I was under the impression that we were looking at other options before agreeing to spend money on this car at present.
I didn't know that was ever, we talked about the car plenty of times, but I don't know there's ever a motion to delay that or talk about something else.
Yes, sir, I made a motion to have that looked at, sir.
Don't recall.
I don't recall passing it.
It was in budget, it's under budget.
It was supposed to
Well-
be discussed at Ways and Means. but
That's the motion.
We got delayed with looking at the budget and different things.
I'll currently make a motion to pull this item from the warrant list and send it to Ways and Means for full discussion.
I'll second that.
Okay. In doing so, how does that affect if this is not approved until January, will that go into next year's budget, or how do we do that?
It's already been spent.
It would have to, because we didn't budget for that next year. It was just in the 2012 budget.
And it's already been ordered at this point, is that correct?
We've placed the order,
Right.
yes.
Because it was a budgeted item.
Right, and this is being purchased off the state contract, so we didn't have to go to bid. And when this was first discussed in Public Works earlier this fall, it was included along with the trash truck, the 2 other trucks that were purchased by Public Works at the time, that we were going to go out to bid for that, and we got no response. And we were able to find a vehicle, a hybrid vehicle that had been discussed on the state contract, which allowed us to place the order.
Right.
I think, excuse me.
No, go ahead.
I'm confused just on the actual process, because that $40,000 hybrid came up, the Ford 40 hybrid came up, but that was under the Public Works capital improvement budget. And this one here is under the municipal operating, capital improvements, but it's for municipal operating, and it was with the couple other
I think there was some
items.
confusion before. There was never $40,000 budgeted for a car.
Correct.
I think the total budget in the municipal operating expenses was for capital improvement, if I'm saying that.
It wasn't even in the municipal operating.
it was
in
in
capital improvement.
Capital improvement.
Right, that's what I meant,
What-
capital improvement, but it wasn't a Public Works capital improvement.
No,
But because Public Works has oversight of
The vehicles.
purchasing of vehicles, of course, other departments do their own, but for this particular one, they had oversight of it. That's why they brought it forward in one memo.
right. And again, I just want to clarify, finish that thought, is that the total amount in here, I think, was actually $45,000 for the year. That also included a copier that we were planning on purchasing, as well as office furniture. It's all listed on the back page. And again, those were estimates. The original estimate, again, on the high side that they were talking about for a vehicle was around $30,000. We weren't sure what it would be. And again, it was just, that's what it was budgeted at. But the process was to go through the state bidding process, or through the state who bids these things out, and then get the price from them when we were actually getting ready to purchase a car. Earlier in the year, we were looking at trying to do a hybrid Ford Escape, I think, was a vehicle. And when they first did that at the beginning of the year, we found out that they no longer made them. It got delayed. When we found that out, with everything, with the other things going on, and that's why we're just getting around to the car, purchasing it now. So, but the price was never, again, to be $40,000. I think at the maximum was 30, but that was just an estimate because we weren't sure how much a hybrid would be. So, Alderwoman Saunders.
I didn't bring it with me. I didn't have time to pull it, but there's a memo, a Public Works memo, and it was the memorandum for the rationale. And the truck, the plow trucks and that had a budget, and what we were going with, it was 2. And then the hybrid, and it was an SUV hybrid, had a budget of either 40 or 45,000, but it was in a written memo.
That was the line item budget total. That was not the cost for the vehicle.
Of the vehicle. And it wasn't. It was
Okay.
a Ford Escort.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Maybe I misread the
Escort,
memo.
right?
Okay.
No, a Ford Escape. Escape, not Escort. A Ford Escape was a vehicle, so that is a little SUV, right?
I would like to say, this is what I would consider a median cost car. This is a pretty affordable car. Operationally, it'll be
Right, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to test it, to see how it works as a city vehicle. Obviously, you won't get the rigorous demands of some of the other departments, but this way it'll give the Public Works the opportunity to be able to service this type of vehicle, learn to see how they operate, and to see if long-term it may be something we want to invest in, from a saving in maintenance and also expensive gasoline as we go forward. So,
Your Honor.
Alderman Kramer.
I wanted to also add in some thoughts about this topic regarding some conversations that I had on the topic. We are under the budget that was stated for the item by a good amount. We were afforded a nice savings through the state contract process, which we otherwise wouldn't have been able to take advantage of except for the expertise of Jim Nommenson and the wherewithal to be able to make that happen. This is part of the contract for our city administrator to be able to drive a vehicle that the city owns. This is not Bola's personal car. The city is going to be purchasing this car for her to be able to use. She'll be able to take this vehicle home. It is part of our arrangement. I personally don't have a problem with it. It's a nice savings, and I think that if for some reason Bola decides not to retire forever here, then the next person will be able to use this vehicle if we have miles left over. So I personally have no problem with it.
Okay. We have a first and a second to send this back to Ways and Means. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Send it back from,
Just that item.
yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
No.
Alderman Kramer.
No.
Alderman Robertson.
No.
Alderman Nguyen.
No.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Don't you love it?
No, no, it's fine. No.
Mayor.
Okay.
We have a motion, Your Honor, on the floor for the full warrant list.
I'm sorry.
We don't have a second, though, for $155,184.02.
And second?
I'll second, Your Honor.
Okay. And do you have a comment?
I did have a comment, and Lee had one too, I think.
No, I just.
I think Tom pointed out something that I thought I remembered, but I wanted to be sure of, is that we do have a commitment to our city administrator to provide this vehicle to her. We can't just ignore that. We have to honor that commitment.
Right. And I think long-term it is going to be a good investment from the city to see if this works or not. I don't think it's frivolous. I think if you look at city administrators from other cities and those kinds of things, it's standard to have a vehicle provided or pay them a stipend every month for that vehicle. So,
Absolutely.
Alderman Harper.
I'm not disagreeing with those comments. My concern was that if Alderman Leahy had intended for this to go back to committee and it didn't, that it should have gone back to the committee. Whether or not we vote on the
Right.
vehicle is irrelevant to the fact that we had an alderman who
And I
made that.
I appreciate
request to send
that,
it
but I
back.
don't remember that happening here. But it may have been at Ways and Means. But
We could look it up.
Alderwoman Saunders.
And I agree also with Alderman Harper, and I didn't know, I wasn't certain about the ownership of the car, but I do have to say, for the audience too, though, Bola did immediately on Saturday get to Bridgeport, take her time and look at that, and I'm wondering how frequently, there's other people that call, I know, with incidences, and that was something that was kind of a learning process for me, but I think we should have taken it to Ways and Means and discussed it more thoroughly.
Okay. All right. We have a first and a second to approve the warrant list as submitted. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
No.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
No.
Thank you. Next item, reports of committee and department heads under the mayor's report. Just a couple quick items. First of all, I would like the board's consideration to, given the fact that Christmas Day falls on a Tuesday this year, I would request a motion by the board to close City Hall on Christmas Eve on the 24th. And then we would afford those necessary employees that have to be here and the other staff a comp day that they would be able to take at a future date for those people that we have to have here on staff. But I'd like to recommend that we close City Hall on Christmas Eve.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Is that what most cities are doing? Do we know?
I can tell you there isn't much city business happening on a Christmas Eve. I mean, I'm just from a past experience. I think a lot of cities would consider it. I don't know if there are a lot of them are doing it, but I just think on Christmas Eve, a lot of people are trying to travel.
Some cities have already scheduled it as a day off in their list of holidays for the year. I haven't done a survey to determine what other cities are doing in St. Louis County.
Anthony's got something here.
I was talking to someone from St. Louis County today, and she indicated that they were looking at closing or at least having a skeleton crew on staff there. So that's as much as I know.
Okay. Alderman Harper.
Do we have any idea, we talked about giving, was it overtime, comp time, whatever, the cost of that? I know unfortunately I'm a state employee and I don't get the 24th off. We're working that day, so I'm just wondering, cost-wise, what's the impact of closing the?
It wouldn't be overtime. For those individuals, it would probably be like another day of vacation day or 8 hours of vacation for those employees. But it wouldn't be overtime. It would just depend on how many that total is. Alderman Nguyen.
I just comment that I think in life there's a few things you can do for employees that are nice. They may not make sense, and maybe I'm trying to do better. Maybe it wasn't. I think there in life is a few times where you can do things for employees that are nice. They may cost you, it may be a loss somewhat, but it's just nice. And I know as a school teacher, when they decided to give us an extra day off, hey, that was great. And I think it'd be nice, our employees will appreciate, I think we build better rapport with them if they get a break once in a while, so I think it's a great thing.
And it's something that they weren't expecting.
Yeah, it's
so.
something they didn't expect. Once you're retired, it's all the same then.
Well, you can have the day off. Too.
Yeah, we gave you the day off.
I can do that on my own. So. Any other questions? We had Alderman Lee.
The Parks Department, I believe, has nothing special scheduled for the 24th?
Just the ice.
Just the ice rink, and I believe that's open skating?
12:40 till 1 o'clock.
Yeah. So the ice rink will still be manned, and open skating will still be allowed.
Not for a paycheck.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure, because your motion was that the employees could take off with pay, and that we would give comp time for those who work.
Mandatory they're here. Right.
So that would be my police and fire.
Well, and the parks.
And the Parks Department, and then, I hate to say it, kids, but it's the street department, hopefully the
If it
snow.
snows, right.
Yes,
Right.
to work with.
Can
But
I
all
ask,
right.
what was, now are we, it's without pay then you're saying?
No, it is.
It
with
is
pay.
with pay.
Right.
Oh, it's with pay or?
With pay.
If the city closes, if
So
we
part-timers
choose to close,
wouldn't count.
we then pay.
The part-time staff would not be paid.
Yeah.
Right. They're off. Right. Work. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
No.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Merry Christmas, yes.
Alderman Tui.
No.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Harper.
No.
Thank you. A couple other quick items. I think we're all excited for, and I'm sure everybody noticed, I've had people call that the old gas station has disappeared from the corner of White Avenue and Brentwood Boulevard. We were invited to Starbucks, I think it was last Thursday or Friday morning, to have a cup of coffee and watch the building coming down. I wasn't able to do that, but so they are moving forward, and thanks to the patience of everybody, they'll get that project done. The other one that actually started demolition last week as well was Drury. And so they started taking down those buildings, and so they'll start moving forward on that project. So that'll be a great addition as well. I think one other announcement, I think Bola's probably going to do this under her report, but we were notified by the state auditors that we will have a executive session on January the 29th for the Board of Aldermen, that they will present their report to us. I think for the public announcement will probably be sometime in February after that, after we've had a chance to review it and make any comments back to them before they release their final report.
That fast.
Well,
They weren't specific about the date. They just said several weeks later.
several weeks. So
I was
I'm
gonna say-
assuming sometime in February. So.
I wouldn't be surprised if it rolled into March.
Right. We did that on a Tuesday, if you're looking at your calendars, because we didn't have a meeting scheduled. Or that was going to be a court night on that Monday, I think, that
And
they
then the
were.
week
so-
before was
our
Martin
regular
Luther
meeting,
King
which
Day.
is canceled. So
Right.
7 o'clock?
it'll be
Yes.
7 o'clock here, and that will be an executive session just for the Board of Aldermen. So, Alderman Saunders.
Can I ask, well, are the state auditors currently working with staff on the report? Have you seen the report? Have they?
No.
Okay, when will they start with staff? With
We are
report?
scheduled, management team is scheduled, I say management, just management, not management team, is scheduled to meet with the state auditors early in January.
Do you have the date?
I think it was that first week, wasn't it?
It's the first week. I don't have that date in front of me.
Okay, could you give me that, please?
It's just for staff.
Okay, but would you forward that
Sure.
to me? Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think that's all my announcements, except that I hope everybody has a great Christmas and holiday season. Public Safety Committee, anything further?
No report.
Public Works
By the way, meeting Thursday, though, at 4:30.
Okay. Public Works Committee?
No report, Your Honor.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Alderman Saunders.
I have a question. Ellen, were you able to check on the recording of the comprehensive plan? The mayor asked that at the last meeting. He was thinking that there were two different ways of recording it, and
No, I don't have that yet. I'll find that information and include
Okay,
it in the weekly
doesn't have to be
report this
before the
week.
holiday or
No,
anything, but
that's fine.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
follow up on that.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll make sure I do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ways and Means?
Your Honor, our next meeting is middle January on the 16th, and I believe that's a 6:30 PM meeting that night here at City Hall.
Great, thank you. City Attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
City Clerk Administrator?
No report, Your Honor.
Excise Commissioner, no report. Library?
Got an announcement here from the library. Starting in January, I think it's starting 2013, the Board of Trustees will now be meeting on the first Tuesday. They used to meet on the first Tuesday of a month, with the exception of January, which happens to fall on the 1st, so the board will meet on the 8th.
Okay.
So if you want to go with that, you need to know that.
Okay, thank you. Municipal, I'm sorry, Alderman Saunders.
I was just going to ask if City Attorney Albrecht, if you've had a chance to contact the Attorney General regarding the library, or will that go back to Ways and Means?
I believe we had
It's
talked
supposed to
about going
go to-
back to Ways and Means, but
Right.
I've been playing phone tag with one of the attorneys, and I've been playing phone tag with one of the attorneys in the Attorney General's office. I tried again today. She called back. I was gone. I'm hoping maybe sometime this week we'll be able to get on the same schedule.
Okay, thank you. And then Gina, were you able to get a hold of the, okay, thank you.
Okay. Municipal League, nothing to report. Communications,
No report, Your Honor.
Historical Society,
No report.
any unfinished business? Alderman Saunders?
I'm reviewing the Strassner TDD dockets, and the one audited financial from fiscal year 2008 is missing from the files, and I'm waiting on that, so.
I believe they responded to you this morning, that because the TDD was dissolved, there was no audited statement for that year.
No. They thought
2008.
it was, but it's 2008 there was. They thought I had typed incorrectly. I'd switched the year, and I had typed, when I said year ended December 31st, 2012. But I'm looking for December 31st, 2008. Every other year, 2004 through 11 was there. So I'm looking for 2008. I just brought it up under unfinished since it was, we talked about it last meeting. And then also, I just wanted to clarify when we voted on the warrant list, and I was going to ask this before we voted, what the process. I voted yes because I was assuming that we're saying that this is valid. Do you know what I mean? That this is valid and, documented, and we're approving it. And had the car already been purchased? I'm confused. Is the warrant list saying these items, we've already had these bills, or had they not been paid? We haven't approved them for payment?
We already have the bills. They haven't been approved for payment. That's why we
Right.
bring them forward.
Okay.
It's really technically it's an informational. These were all budgeted items. If it was something that had not been budgeted, then obviously we would be able to say no, or it would have to be sent back to committee. But normally the process is when these expenses are in the budget for purchase of capital improvement, car, vehicle, truck, trash truck, those kinds of things, just the final notice comes through here through the warrant list that, yes, it's in the budget, it's been approved, and now it's being paid.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any new business?
Yes, Your Honor.
Alderman Kramer?
I, in front of all the aldermen tonight, supplied a copy of an email that I sent today to Bola and Ellen. I had a conversation with them today. The reason why I'm bringing this to your attention is I unfortunately will not be able to attend the January 7th, 2013 Board of Aldermen meeting. There'll be a petition coming before the board that night regarding the promenade and some items that they would like to see included in an agreement going forward. My email discusses the topic of parking and the potential amendment of their site plan approval and conditional use permit for purposes of their tenant-employee parking policy. So when you get a chance, after the holidays, after your eggnog, when you're feeling bored, take a look at this. But I'd like to enter this into the minutes if I could for tonight's meeting so that it can stand on the record for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Saunders?
Could you just provide a brief synopsis of what, I haven't watched the planning and zoning meetings, and I wanted to go this past week, but I was too busy, just exactly what's going for the audience too in that retail area?
Sure. The petitioner, DDR, which is the main owner of the promenade, is coming forward with a petition for an expansion of their development. There has been a study done regarding parking for that development, as it would impact the existing parking spaces that are utilized. As a product of the discussion at Ways and Means, there was a subject of the employee parking in the development, whether or not it was being utilized. There are approximately 150 spaces that surround the periphery of that development that on a regular basis are not used. We recently had an agreement with the Target stores, for example, in their written agreement that their employees use the employee parking spaces. They have not done so. And so the question remains as to whether or not we can enforce the utilization of an employee parking policy with the owner and the tenants under lease. After discussion, it would appear as though the site plan approval and conditional use permit agreements may be attachable for working with DDR and their tenants to put together an agreement that would at least allow us to have some enforceability over a program such as that. Right now you have a lot of employees that park in the main field all day, every day, and when you go to use the promenade right now, it's difficult to find a parking space. And there are 150 spaces that are sitting empty, especially on the weekends. This would kind of put the onus back on the developer and the owner to work with the employees so that they use those spaces for parking.
Just as a clarification, and John, you may be able to answer this, but for Target, they do have an area on the north side of the building that was designated as employee parking. They're also probably one of the larger employers in the site. But for the rest of the tenants, there really aren't, for instance, Trader Joe's. There isn't a designated area for their employee parking because they have to park in the parking field. Am I correct in that analysis? There's very limited parking behind the buildings.
Okay, John Geppert, Chairman of Planning and Zoning. We address the issue of parking as a major factor of the determination of deciding their application. Tomorrow, there is a meeting set between myself and Ellen and the Sandstone Group, which is the managing property party, and we are going to talk about the employee parking and how you can move towards an opportunity to improve the circumstance there. So whereas Planning and Zoning did come to a positive recommendation, which you all will get at your January meeting, for moving on, it was a split decision, but we are meeting tomorrow and we are going to talk to Sandstone Group about how to better manage the property and the parking circumstance, particularly the employee parking.
Right.
So the issue is distinctly on the agenda, and you're not being asked to decide anything tonight on that subject, and we will be able to report back to you, before you have to decide on the expansion as to the outcome of those meetings and whether there is a way to better manage it.
Great. Thanks, John.
Can I ask a question, Chairman Geppert? What is the net added square footage? The addition that they're talking about is 10,000, but it's replacing Shane Company, right?
No, it is a net addition of 10,000.
So the total square footage would be 20,000.
Okay, thank you.
Well, but of that 20,
10 was there.
The addition is only, it's a plus 10,000 square foot.
All right, I had it confused.
Which is, I believe, like 3.4% addition to the property in square footage.
Right.
And I think it's important for everyone on this panel to understand that we, the city of Brentwood, hired the traffic engineer that studied it. It was not the developer. Yes, at the end of the day, the developer paid for it, but we, the city, hired the engineer to do the work for our benefit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Alderman Saunders.
And Chairman Geppert, did the engineer say, was the traffic study or the parking study combination that this is doable? Was it favorable? Does it meet within our code? I know plan development, you can change the code.
The conclusion of the traffic engineer was this was workable, and in their professional opinion, it was within their guidelines of acceptance. Now, I think as citizens of Brentwood, we all go down to the promenade, and we go in there and, we sort of say, wow, this is a little bit of a problem. But the traffic engineer, yes, reported a positive recommendation.
Okay.
Alderman Lee.
For your meeting tomorrow, as an alderman, I don't shop at the promenade. I find the parking extremely too tight and their lanes way too thin. And I find it very disconcerting.
All right.
And you can let them know that.
Oh, Alderman Leahy, we have distinctly let them know that.
If you'll remember, when Target did their addition, we made them restripe their parking spaces to make them wider, and eliminating some in order to do so.
And
it hasn't improved.
Alderman Leahy, I don't disagree. But we have let them know that.
Thank you.
The only response that I will give you,
It does
as arguably someone who is involved in the economic development aspects of the city, the only comment I will tell you is, you have a 17-year-old property that the owner from New York, is that where they're from? I mean, the owner in New York wants to invest another $4 million in an expansion, and you have a traffic engineer that is essentially concluding it still works. And yes, as a citizen, if you don't want to go there, you can vote with your steering wheel. But they're wanting to put $4 million into the property, and what they're basically saying is it is still a very well-performing property. And I do agree it would be nice if it had a better format and that you would want to go there. And I've actually recommended that they put parking places near the front door that says Brentwood resident only.
I do appreciate your
those wouldn't be filled. Let me tell you.
I appreciate you helping to push for the citizens' benefit. That is not bad.
But you have to appreciate at the same time, the fact is the property is tremendously economically viable, with all due regards to the parking issue.
Alderman Sanders.
I made that same comment at my Ward 1 meeting, too. I was thinking,
What about 20 foot within the...
Well, why would retailers want to do you know what I mean, if they feared that the development, that it was going to drive everyone away? My concern, though, is the arteries, do you know what I mean, and how much of a headache that's going to present for the residents. But the parking, like you say, I've had many residents tell me they go elsewhere to shop, but we're still getting someone else to replace that spot. So I understand
you are not looking at doors that are dark in that center.
That I ask is, can we get those documents as soon as possible so that this big packet doesn't come to me 1 or 2 days before
The parking study has been included in the weekly city administrator report now for a couple of weeks.
Okay. But
Yeah,
I mean
it's
the whole thing,
it's
though,
out
like
there.
The site plan and everything.
Yeah, I mean,
I've actually asked the owner to submit those. I should have them by Wednesday.
Okay.
So I wanted to get them to Bola so she could distribute them 2 weeks before the January 7th.
so yeah, I mean,
I wasn't talking about just the parking study, but I meant the whole.
We'll
Yeah.
get it to you.
I mean, it's out there, and we spent a lot of time. In fact, we spent more time in planning and zoning on parking than any other issue in the whole deliberation of what they wanted to do.
Well, I have to say that this was the one time, though, the one thing that I'll say that I remember about the promenade is that since then, with the parking, we've all come back to say, the alderman and yourself included, the promenade was our learning curve. And the same thing with the sign. We've corrected the sign, but now with the parking, I'm not too certain.
But again, there's limited space.
Yes.
So you can make the spaces bigger, and then you're going to have less spaces.
Less parking.
Right. I'll use the
Or you
line,
can
and
say
I'm
no.
sure John and a number of the other aldermen have heard me say it before. And but when it comes to parking in situations like that, is that I grew up in the catering business, and my dad always said that if the only complaint you ever get is the plate's not big enough, that's a good thing. So if we're running out of parking spaces, I would say that's a good thing. I will tell you, I've had people comment that they come to the promenade to shop at stores like Trader Joe's instead of going to the one in De Pere because they find it hard to get to on Manchester Road out in De Pere. So it's, again, some people may not come, but obviously the center's being very successful and they're making an improvement. So
I'd like to add one other comment on to the mayor, and that is that in my philosophy, as I've approached the contemplation, if you will, of property changes and property uses, if you think that there is going to be a parking problem on a facility and that parking problem is going to roll over into a residential neighborhood, it's at the top of the list of concerns, at the absolute top. And if the promenade has a parking problem, which I think all of us in this room would say it is not optimal, it is not rolling over that problem onto adjoining properties. It's not rolling over that problem onto other residential areas. So whatever problem they have is an economic issue for the property owner, for the tenants. It is not really a citizen problem other than convenience of going there. And therefore, it doesn't mean that we ignore the issue, but it doesn't roll over to become a larger problem.
Because the only thing is and you've been doing this for a long time, so I'm just making an observation, not based on anything, but you do have to be careful about when the congestion, though, becomes so great on the arteries that, that addition could become hazardous where people finally say, you know what, getting into that complex as a whole, people just start going away and you eliminate your base, not just from residents, but from all over because it's a treacherous.
And if that happens, you will start to see empty stores.
Right.
Right.
And right now, you see tenants wanting to be there.
Right, but we're not. But we're going to even add to the problem. We're going to add tenants, but we're going to increase the problem.
But I think you have to take into account when that's going to happen. I mean, again, in the holiday season, in August, late August and September, when schools are coming back, there's real parking problems at the promenade. But I can tell you, Saturday afternoon, driving out Manchester, 2 blocks east of Ballas, it was backed up and at a standstill trying to get into West County Mall. But people were waiting in line to get there, and I just wanted to get by there. I wasn't even going. But I'm just saying, you have to. It's a balancing. I mean, right. you want to have parking for those peak hours, but it's 80% of the time of the year there's parking there. Obviously, it's full. We want that, but there's parking there, and people are able to get in and out.
And what the traffic engineer will tell you, because he will be here on the night that this is presented to you, he will tell you you don't plan a parking field for Christmas.
Right.
It is not the manner in which a development is constructed. Having said that, you're only talking in this particular case with the promenade of a 3.4% expansion of square footage. I'm just not sure the materiality is there, and when the parking engineer tells you it still works,
right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why.
Like I said, I haven't made up my mind, and like I said at the Ward 1 meeting, I did say you have to ask why would a retailer want to do this? Do you know what I mean? Why would, if they're willing to take that risk? You know what I mean? And they still people will come. So I'll look at the documents.
Right.
Well, certainly.
All right.
And Mr. Kramer and I have had conversations about this
yes,
also.
we have.
So.
Your Honor,
one more comment.
If I could add on to this, trying to give the fair and balanced side of the conversation. Even before Christmas, there has been a problem at the promenade. It's been going on for quite a while. Is it possible we could have done things better from the beginning? Yes, it's possible. I think there is shared blame to go around in that regard. But there are some simple things I think that can be done. And you're right, it's maybe not possible for the folks who work at Trader Joe's to park behind the Target store or behind the Under 5 store. But there are 150 spaces that go unutilized, even on a regular Saturday in June, when otherwise parking is very tight. And there are some simple things that can possibly be done. In this particular case, you don't get an opportunity, but every once in a while, to interact with the developer when they want or need something. This is that opportunity to have that discussion. I'm glad the meetings are taking place. I hope they'll be fruitful. I would encourage everyone to read the email that was thought out based upon conversation, and I'm hopeful that maybe a little bit of a change can happen going forward.
No, I agree, and you're right. Those opportunities don't come about too often. So.
And just for the sake of the record, we are the ones that asked to meet with Sansome to talk about parking management. So I do think we're being proactive in that manner.
Great.
I just want to say I have a unique perspective. I'm the only one sitting in this room that voted against the promenade. On a 7-1 vote.
I thought I predated you in this involvement.
No, and I just want to say that I looked at Brentwood as that was then. I look at Brentwood today, and I believe the promenade has brought us many wonderful things. It brings in problems, but I have changed my mind. I see all the shoppers, and I see people buying things in Brentwood they never used to buy here, and I think it's a good thing.
Well, I'm gonna perhaps go on a direction that I'll be criticized for, but I remember sitting in this chamber many years ago, pre-promenade, and the people who were up here at this panel were talking about a budget of $7 million. Mm-hmm. And I remember at your last meeting you approved a budget of $17 million. Appreciate the difference. Appreciate the service that you are delivering to the members of this community because of that difference. And part of it is the promenade and the other developments that have taken place.
Alderman Harper.
I'll just add, since we're ad-libbing, that it was at the cost of diversity for Brentwood.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Can I go away now?
Yes. We'll open up for, is there any other new business? Okay. We'll open up for any matter of public interest, but any persons present they'd like to address the board, please come forward. Hearing none. A motion to adjourn?
Oh, we have one.
Oh. Got to be quick. I will. No, I meant quick. Okay. Before that, sorry.
No. On this noise study, I appreciate that we're trying to do things that are maybe simplifying that, but my concern is sometimes that maybe a noise may not be hitting decimal levels, but common sense, you shouldn't be standing in the front of your home hearing noise from a resident or a facility at the back of your yard and hearing it through your windows with closed windows and doors. And Mr. DeMond has indicated that given our situation, it's possible that it may be below the decimal level, but we're still hearing that noise. So I just want, there may need to be some consideration on that as far as some common sense type things too. In addition, I want to thank Bola and Ellen and Jim, who's not here, for helping catch up on some of the issues that we've been talking about for several months. I think once you all took over and started looking at them, they were resolved within a couple weeks. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, wherever he is. Thanks.
Thanks. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And second?
Second, Your
All
Honor.
in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we're adjourned.